Most investors are convinced they're making smart, rational decisions with their money. The truth is, most of us are falling for a handful of simple psychological traps that are quietly sabotaging our returns.
It's the reason so many people feel like they're working hard and saving diligently, but their portfolio just isn't growing the way it should be.
And this isn't just a feeling, it's a fact, backed by decades of data. The research firm DALBAR has been studying investor behavior for over 30 years, and their findings are stunning. Their 2025 report found that in 2024, the average equity mutual fund and ETF investor earned a return of just 16.54%, while the S&P 500 index returned 25.02%.
That huge gap wasn't because of the market, it was because of bad timing and behavior. To show you what that means over the long run, a gap like that could be the difference between retiring with $800,000 versus over $2 million. That's not a statistic from the study, it's a hypothetical example, but it shows you the real-world cost of these mistakes.
The legendary investor Benjamin Graham said it best: "The investor's chief problem, and even his worst enemy, is likely to be himself." But here's the good news.
These aren't complicated, high-finance mistakes. They are simple, psychological traps that we are all wired to fall into.
And once you can name them, you can learn to sidestep them. Today, I'm going to break down the 6 most destructive investing traps, explain the psychology behind why we make them, and give you a clear, actionable game plan to avoid them for good.
Let's get into it. The first and most common trap is performance chasing. It's the classic mistake of seeing something that has already skyrocketed in price and feeling an irresistible urge to jump on board. We see a stock, a crypto coin, or a hot sector delivering insane returns, and our brain screams, "Don't miss out." So what's going on in our brains here? It's a powerful cocktail of FOMO, the fear of missing out, and a behavioral bias known as herding. We find comfort in doing what everyone else is doing. We see people on social media celebrating their gains. We read headlines about the must-own stock of the year, and we start to believe that what went up must keep going up. Think about the meme stock craze a few years ago. Companies with shaky business models were propelled to absurd valuations by pure social media hype. The investors who piled in near the top, driven by FOMO, were left holding the bag when the excitement inevitably vanished. This same pattern has repeated for centuries, from the dot-com bubble to every sector-specific mania. Research consistently shows that buying a fund just because it was a top performer last year is a losing strategy. So how do you defend against this? For a beginner, the solution is to have a strategy the hype even starts. Your best defense is a simple written investment plan. This doesn't need to be some 50-page document. It can be as simple as, I will invest a set amount of money each month into a broad, diversified fund. Instead of trying to find the needle in the haystack, you just buy the whole haystack. A low-cost total market index fund, or ETF, is perfect for this. It builds discipline and stops you from making impulsive moves based on market noise. For a more experienced investor, the defense is disciplined rebalancing. Let's say one of your investments has a fantastic run and now makes up a huge part of your portfolio. Your plan should force you to trim that position back to its original target. It feels wrong to sell your winners, but this is the very definition of risk management. It forces you to sell high, and then you can reallocate those profits to other parts of your portfolio that might be undervalued. This next trap is the silent portfolio killer, putting all your eggs in one basket. It's the belief that you'll get rich faster by betting everything on 1 or 2 brilliant ideas. And while it's true that concentration can build wealth, it's a double-edged sword that is just as likely to completely destroy it. The psychology here is rooted in overconfidence. After you nail a few successful stock picks, it's easy to think you've got some special insight the market is missing. This often goes hand in hand with familiarity bias. We overinvest in the company we work for, or in an industry we know well. We mistake that familiarity for a true understanding of the risks. But all it takes is one piece of bad news, a failed product, an accounting scandal, a shift in the industry, to devastate your entire net worth. Need a real-world example? Look at employees at companies like Enron and WorldCom. Many of them lost not only their jobs, but their entire life savings because their retirement accounts were packed with company stock. They thought it was the safest bet they could make,
but it exposed them to a catastrophic and totally avoidable risk.
So, how do you build a more resilient portfolio? For the beginner, the answer is wonderfully simple. Use funds that are already diversified for you. A single target date retirement fund or a total world stock market ETF gives you a slice of thousands of companies across dozens of countries.
With one click, you can achieve a level of diversification that used to be impossible for anyone but the ultra-wealthy.
This dramatically reduces the risk that any single company's failure can derail your financial plan.
For the intermediate investor, it's about going a step further. It's not just about owning lots of stocks, it's about owning different kinds of assets that zig and zag at different times. This means building a portfolio with a mix of U.S. stocks, international stocks, bonds, and maybe alternatives like real estate.
A great rule to implement is setting a cap on any single stock, say no more than 5% of your portfolio.
If it grows past that, you rebalance. You also have to watch out for the illusion of diversification, where you own 5 different tech funds that are all invested in the exact same handful of mega-cap stocks.
If a lack of diversification is the silent killer, this next trap is the loud, obnoxious one, letting your emotions run the show.
Fear and greed are powerful forces in investing. Acting on them is almost always a mistake, and is the #1 reason the average investor underperforms the market itself. Here's a weird quirk of the human brain behavioral economists have identified: loss aversion. The pain of losing money feels about twice as intense as the pleasure of gaining the same amount.
This is what causes panic selling. We see our portfolio value drop, the emotional pain becomes overwhelming, and our brain just wants it to stop, so we sell everything, usually right at the bottom of a crash.
Greed is the other side of the coin. When it seems like everyone around you is getting rich, the herd mentality kicks in.
You feel like a fool for sitting on the sidelines, so you jump in and buy, often at ridiculously high prices.
This cycle of buying high out of greed and selling low out of fear is a guaranteed way to destroy your wealth over time.
So, how do you build discipline and get your emotions out of the driver's seat?
For the beginner, your superpower is automation. Set up automatic contributions from your paycheck into your investment accounts every single month, no matter what the market is doing. This is called dollar cost averaging. It forces you to buy more shares when prices are low and fewer shares when prices are high.
It turns volatility into your friend and completely removes the emotional decision of to invest. It's a set it and forget it strategy that works. For the intermediate investor, it's about creating an investment policy statement, or IPS. Think of this as a constitution for your portfolio. It's a written document that lays out your goals, your risk tolerance, and the specific rules you'll follow in any market. For example, your IPS might state that you'll only sell a stock if the fundamental business changes, not because the price dropped 20%. You can even add a cool-off rule. If you feel a strong urge to make a trade based on a news headline, you have to wait 72 hours before acting. Often, that's all it takes for the emotion to fade and logic to return. All right, we're halfway through. If you're finding this useful and it's helping you think differently about your money, do me a quick favor and hit that subscribe button. My whole goal here is to give you the tools to build real, long-term wealth. And by subscribing, you won't miss what's coming next. It's free, and it's a great investment in your financial education. Trap 4. Trying to time the market. This fourth trap is probably the most tempting of all, trying to time the market. The idea is so seductive. Sell at the very top, wait out the crash on the sidelines with your cash, and then jump back in at the absolute bottom. If you could do it, you'd be a billionaire. The problem is it's practically impossible to do consistently. The psychology here is pure overconfidence and the illusion of control. We see patterns and think we can predict what happens next. But the market's best days often happen right next to its worst days. The data on this is absolutely brutal. Major studies from firms like JP Morgan have found that 7 of the 10 best days in the market over the last 2 decades occurred within 2 weeks of the 10 worst days. By selling your stocks to avoid the pain of the worst days, you are almost guaranteed to miss the powerful upswings that follow, and missing just a handful of those best days can devastate your long-term returns. It's why the old saying is so true. What matters is time in the market, not timing the market. So how do you resist the urge to be a market guru?
For the beginner, we come right back to dollar cost averaging. By investing a set amount on a regular schedule, you completely remove the timing decision from the equation.
You're buying when the market's high, low, and in between. This guarantees you'll be invested for those critical best days that drive most of the long-term growth. You're admitting you can't predict the future and using a system that makes prediction irrelevant. For the intermediate investor, the answer is to focus on rebalancing your asset allocation. Your investment plan defines your ideal mix of stocks and bonds. After a market crash, your stock portion will be below its target. Your pre-written rebalancing rule should then trigger you to buy more stocks by selling some of your bonds, which have likely held their value. This is a non-emotional system for buying low, and when the market is red hot, the same rule will force you to trim your stocks and take profits. It's a form of timing, but one based on a system, not a gut feeling. This next trap is the most insidious because it's a silent thief. It's the mistake of ignoring the seemingly small costs of investing: management fees, expense ratios, trading commissions, and taxes.
Our brains aren't wired to grasp the destructive power of compounding costs over decades. A 1% management fee doesn't sound like much.
A 0.5% expense ratio on a mutual fund seems tiny, but that 1% fee isn't just a 1% drag on this year's return, it's a 1% drag on your entire principal year after year, and it can consume a shocking amount of your future wealth.
Let me tell you a quick story. Imagine you invest $100,000 for 30 years and earn an average 8% annual return. With no fees, that grows to just over $1 million. Now, let's introduce that tiny 1% annual fee. After 30 years, that fee has eaten nearly $280,000 of your final nest egg. You end up with 28% less money, all because of a fee that looked insignificant. So, how do you fight back against these hidden costs? For the beginner, the answer is simple. Make low-cost index funds and ETFs the core of your portfolio. Thanks to pioneers like Vanguard's Jack Bogle, you can buy funds that track the entire market for expense ratios as low as 0.03% a year. When you're comparing two similar funds, the expense ratio should be a huge deciding factor. It's the easiest way to guarantee a higher net return over the long run. For the intermediate investor, you can expand this to include tax efficiency. Two key strategies are asset location and tax loss harvesting. Asset location just means putting your least tax-efficient investments, like corporate bonds, inside tax-sheltered accounts, like an IRA or 401k, while keeping your most tax-efficient ones, like broad market index funds, in your taxable brokerage account. Tax loss harvesting is where you strategically sell a losing investment to realize a capital loss, which you can then use to offset capital gains elsewhere, lowering your tax bill. This final trap is the master trap, the one that makes all the others possible. Investing without a plan. This means you haven't defined your goals, you don't understand your own tolerance for risk, and you don't have a clear timeline. Without a plan, you're not investing, you're gambling. The psychology here is a bias towards action. New investors are often more excited about to buy than they're buying it. This leads to a portfolio that's just a random collection of good ideas instead of a cohesive strategy. It often results in a total mismatch of risk. You might see a young investor with 40 years until retirement being far too conservative, missing out on decades of growth. Even more dangerous is the person nearing retirement who is taking way too much risk, leaving their nest egg vulnerable to a major loss at the worst possible time. It's no surprise that many people who don't invest say they're held back by a fear of loss and not knowing where to start, problems a clear plan is designed to solve. A crucial part of this plan, Rule 0, is building an emergency fund you invest in the market. Without 3-6 months of living expenses in a safe, high-yield savings account, a job loss or unexpected bill could force you to sell your investments at the worst possible time. So, how do you build a plan that actually works? For the beginner, it all starts with defining your goal and timeline. Is this for retirement in 30 years? A house in 5? The timeline dictates the risk you can take. For a long-term goal, a target date fund is a brilliant all-in-one solution. You pick the fund with the year closest to your retirement, and it handles all the diversification and risk adjustment for you over time. And before you invest a dime, make sure that emergency fund is full. For the intermediate investor, planning gets more detailed.
It means creating an asset allocation model based on your specific goals and even your human capital. A tenured professor with a stable income can take on more market risk than a freelance artist with a variable income.
Your plan should also look at all your accounts, your 401k, IRA, taxable accounts, as one unified portfolio. And you need to write it down, review it once a year, and use it as the constitution for every decision you make.
So there they are, the 6 biggest traps in investing: chasing hot trends, being poorly diversified, making emotional decisions, trying to time the market, ignoring costs, and having no plan.
Did you notice the common thread? The solution to every single one is not about being a genius stock picker or having a crystal ball.
In every case, the solution is about removing your ego, your biases, and your emotions from the day-to-day decisions.
Successful investing isn't a game of intellect, it's a game of temperament. It's about having the discipline to create a simple, solid plan and the emotional fortitude to stick with it for decades. It's about focusing on the few things you can actually control: how much you save, your asset allocation, and your costs, and learning to ignore all the noise you can't. Create a written plan. Use low-cost, diversified funds. Automate your investments. And then comes the hardest part: do nothing. Let the plan and the market do the work for you, through the good times and the bad. Building wealth is a marathon, not a sprint. And by avoiding these common traps, you put yourself on the path to not just finish the race, but to win it.